Has there ever been a scientific discovery that's shaken your faith at all?
Well, I refer to these things not as, quote, shaking my faith, but as anomalies. And I get asked that a lot. Are there things that happen in science that don't fit your model? I say, yeah, it happens all the time. But they typically wind up being anomalies. Things that look like they don't fit our biblical worldview perspective until we do deeper research and find out that the anomaly now gets transformed into a piece of evidence. And that's been consistent. It's been consistent throughout the whole history of the church. Has been consistent in my whole academic scientific career, that every time there's been an anomaly, it turns out it gets transformed. Now, are there anomalies today? Yes, there are. There are anomalies that don't fit. But I've had enough experience to realize if I simply wait it out, it's going to work out. I mean, to give you one example that's being pushed really hard, there are people saying there's genetic evidence that humans and Neanderthals interbred, and therefore maybe we don't have the image of God. And I says, well, I've looked at the genetic evidence. It is strong, but number one, it's not compelling. The authors of the paper said we don't have a high signal-to-noise ratio. And in physics, if the signal is not 5 times greater than the noise, we don't consider it a confirmed discovery. In this case, the signal is 3.5 times the noise. Good enough to get published in a biology journal, but it wouldn't make it in a physics journal. And also the authors made the point, this signal is so weak that the level of interbreeding that took place 40,000 years ago is lower than the incidence of bestiality amongst humans today. Because we only see the signal in the Y chromosome, we don't see it in the mitochondrial DNA, which means if it's real, it's weak. And so I've been on board saying we need to repeat this experiment, and this time we need to use genetics researchers that are all sub-Saharan Africans, because that was a claim, is that people who are Europeans, Asians, and Pacific Islanders have got more Neanderthal DNA than we see in sub-Saharan Africans. But the 11 geneticists were all, who published the paper, they were all Europeans, Asians, and Pacific Islanders. There wasn't a single geneticist in the study that was a sub-Saharan African. So I said, in physics, we'd say, interesting paper, let's redo the experiment, but this time we're only going to use sub-Saharan Africans who will be handling the DNA and see if we get the same result. Because maybe it's spurious. No one's ever done that test. That's an example where I think this is probably going to play out to our favor. And by the way, Sue Dykes is strongly of the opinion that where we see the similarity between Europeans and Neanderthals is because both had to deal with the same climatic conditions. Because where did the Neanderthals live? They lived in Europe. And so and basically she's saying they would have fair skin, just like Europeans have fair skin, because they need to deal with the different solar conditions. They got to make enough vitamin D. Because we now know that Neanderthals couldn't manufacture their own vitamin D. So there would have to be some similarity. We'll see how this plays out. That's one reason we're bringing Sue on board, see if we can transform this anomaly.